Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and we've been gracefully blessed with little Rings of Power news for several months now, as we needed a break after the travesty that was the first season of that abomination, both in terms of adaptation and just pure writing quality. I've rarely come across a show as poorly written, poorly designed, and just hobbled together by a madman as Rings of Power. The notable exception to that is Blood Origin. Blood Origin is the only show I think is actually worse. But Rings of Power, luckily we were spared from it for a little while now, but there is new news, new interviews about the show, about the upcoming season 2 that I could not pass up the opportunity to talk about, and some retroactive comments about season 1 and some of the decisions made therein that I just wanted to briefly talk about. So let's just jump right into it. We have this article here from Bound in the Comments that just put it together really well as including a lot of contradictory research from the works of Tolkien himself. So if you want to deep dive into what the true version of the history is, Bound in Comments in this very article offers quite a bit of great detail on that. But the headline says, The Rings of Power showrunner explains why they decided to ignore Tolkien's writings and depict their own creation of Mordor. So for those of you who don't remember, Rings of Power saw Mordor as just a regular old place, fields, farms, just a regular place. And then for some insane reason, they blow up a dam, the orcs blow up a dam, and the water flows into the volcano, makes it explode insanely massively, which covers the entire land with ash. But the crops and stuff, the trees, they're all still there. It's going to take them a long time to turn into the rocky, crabby surface that we know from the Lord of the Rings movies. That was the origin story. He wanted an origin story. And then at the end of that episode, they had a text font change to show that it was no longer the Southlands. It was Mordor. And it was just as cringe as you can imagine from that description. Well, one of the showrunners has an explanation for why he decided to do that. And what profound reason do you think he had for contradicting Tolkien's lore, which this article goes into saying was Mordor was always that way. Really, the volcanic nature of the land always made it a bit desolate, always made it dangerous and perfect for Sauron to come in and claim. So, what do you think the showrunners' reasons for changing that from the original lore to this nonsensical origin story? Let's check it out. So, in the writer's room, we asked, what if Mordor was beautiful and like Switzerland? And then we could have it happen, we could transform it. We're hoping it'll take people by surprise. They just wanted to surprise people, everyone. That's everything you want in an adaptation. People are expecting the truth, but what if we made up some random bullshit? They'll be shocked, they'll be surprised, and that is just cheap writing. If you're just looking for cheap thrills, cheap surprises to shock your audience into pretending, or at least initially feeling, like whatever they saw was good, then you don't actually have the talent to write anything good. If you're focusing on, let's just surprise the audience, then you don't have anything else up your sleeve of quality. You don't know how to write properly, so the shock factor is the only thing that you have, and that is level 1 basic bitch writing, and I'm not surprised by it. Their explanation, just surprise them. I doubt if they even knew the actual origin of Mordor that this article goes into. I doubt they even did that basic research. And that's pretty much all he had to say about that. Is it was a surprise. But additionally, on top of that insane explanation, I want to talk about a rumor that apparently Tom Bombadil will be in season 2. Now, Tom Bombadil is a very interesting character that was, I believe, rightfully so, cut from the Lord of the Rings movies, mainly because of time and mainly because it's kind of difficult to portray a character like Tom Bombadil on screen. I agree with Peter Jackson's decision to cut him, but he shouldn't be really in this show. He's not super involved. He's kind of his own character. He lives on his own. He's above everybody else. He doesn't interact with mortals or even elves most of the time. So it doesn't make sense, except for people know who he is, and that's all the Rings of Power people can go off of. It's like, I've heard the name Tom Bombadil before. Throw him in there. Does it make sense? No. Has anything we've done made sense? No, not whatsoever. So we have Tom Bombadil to look forward to, and I can't imagine the travesty that he'll end up looking like. I just personally picture Lizzo playing Tom Bombadil. That's what I imagine for Rings of Power Season 2. But finally, I wanted to end this video just with the headline. Just a headline, because if we actually read this article, I think all our brains would melt. But a headline from a site called The Jacobin, which I'm not familiar with, but this headline is just too bananas not to talk about briefly. J.R.R. Tolkien's fantasy world is a medieval utopia with poverty and oppression airbrushed out of the picture. No, they talk about it. They talk about the poverty. Sometimes they talk about it, not the oppression, because that's just the bad guys doing it, so whatever. But He's not airbrushing it out. It's there. But Tolkien's work also contains a romantic critique of industrial capitalism, and that is an important part of its vast popular appeal. And the actual article is titled "A Marxist View of Tolkien's Middle Earth." I believe that J.R.R. Tolkien would have a problem with that. Just a little bit of a problem with that because he was indeed a capitalist. He was anti-industrialist. That's true. He was very much a traditionalist, more Victorian, pre-Victorian type values, and that was okay. But he was not a Marxist or a socialist by any stretch of the imagination, and it wasn't a critique of capitalism. There's a difference between capitalism and industrialism, and it was just J.R.R. Tolkien's distinction between them. But this article is actually batshit insane. Jacobean just pulling as much out of their ass as possible to justify the fact that J.R.R. Tolkien was a Marxist. And if anybody has done any research on his life, that can't be farther from the truth, because Marxist ideals are staunchly opposed to everything that he stood for throughout his life. And it's just sad. Sad that they are weaponizing Tolkien against the fans once again, like they did when The Rings of Power was actually on the air. But those are the main pieces of news from this week that I wanted to briefly touch on about The Rings of Power. I'm so excited for season 2 because I imagine it's going to be tenfold worse than what we got in season 1. And it's crazy to think about it, but yes, I do believe it is going to be worse, and I'm going to be here for it, talking about it, mocking it, and showing the fans, the true Tolkien fans, the travesty that Amazon is perpetuating because they do not care about the source material, as the showrunners admitted in that article in their interview. They do not care. And so why should we care about the abomination that is The Rings of Power? But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon.
Hey, yo, are you feeling what I'm doing up in here? Oh, I know you are. Do you miss all the good, compelling stories that we used to get back in Hollywood that they ain't putting down no more? I know you missing it. So check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues, baby. Book 1, Down in Flames. Book 2, Apocalypse Then. These are currently on sale. What are you waiting for? Get your hands on them. And we got Book 3, Kill the Dark, is coming down the pipeline. Just wait for all the good stuff that's dropping. You ain't gonna be disappointed, fam.